Liberty Nation Radio, a production of LibertyNation.com and heard from coast to coast on the Radio America Network. And a shout out this week to the good folks listening on KBKW 100.5 FM and 1320 AM in Aberdeen, Grays Harbor County, Washington, gateway to the Olympic Peninsula. Thanks for jumping on board today.
Say what? Say what? Say what? One more time.
And now it's time for our signature segment, Say What, as we roll out some of the most wacky, astonishing, and damnable things uttered by politicians and the chattering class. If you wondered how the young upstart progressives like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who are now part of the majority controlling the House, would behave with their newfound power, wonder no more. There were splashy headlines all over the elite media on election night about the victory of the first Palestinian American ever elected to Congress, Rashida Tlaib, from Michigan's 13th Congressional District. And the first thing she did upon taking office, you wouldn't believe it unless you actually heard it, was drop the F-bomb on President Trump.
People love you, and you win. Woo! And when your son looks at you and says, Mama, look, you won, bullies don't win. And I said, baby, they don't, because we're going to go in there and we're going to impeach the motherfucker.
We're going to impeach the mother effer. I'm sure Palestinians across the globe sure are proud of the first of their heritage to reach the U.S. Congress. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, the partial government shutdown carries on. It's now 2 weeks old. And Senator Rand Paul went on Fox News and pointed out that unlike Democrat presidents, Trump isn't shuttering things just to try and whip up public outrage, and thus the shutdown has flown largely under the radar.
Well, you know, there is a big danger that the government shut down and no one notices. And in the past, the shutdowns have always been, or a lot of them have been with a Democrat president, and they do everything possible, like closing down overpasses, closing down empty parking lots, closing down the World War II memorial, which has no attendant or no cost to keep open. This time they're not doing that, and so it's not quite as noticeable. Plus, 75% of the government's already funded, including the military. So there is a chance nobody notices.
And then Rand Paul went on to discuss the decision by freshman senator and failed 2012 presidential nominee Mitt Romney to trash the president of his own party in a Washington Post op-ed before he'd even been sworn in.
I think it's going to backfire on him. I think there's going to be a backlash from conservatives across the country who say, well, gosh, the president gave us 2 conservative Supreme Court leaders. The president gave us the largest tax cut in 20 or 30 years.
Well, he commended those efforts. He did commend those efforts. You like that?
Yeah, but then why is he out there calling the president dishonest? I think that when you attack someone's character like that, I think that's such a low blow and so personally directed and so malevolent that it's not something like, oh, we're going to, someone's going to change their character. He's now called his character dishonest. And I think that's a bad way for him to start in the Senate.
Romney will soon learn that, as we've discussed. But how about the particulars of Romney, the many faces of Mitt? Let's start with his savage attack on then-candidate Donald Trump in 2016.
Donald Trump is a phony, a fraud. His promises are as worthless as a degree from Trump University. He's playing the members of the American public for suckers. His domestic policies would lead to recession. His foreign policies would make America and the world less safe. He has neither the temperament nor the judgment to be president.
But Trump became president and dangled the possibility of Romney becoming Secretary of State. And two-faced Mitt turned 180 degrees with fawning praise of then-President-elect Trump.
I've had a wonderful evening with President-elect Trump. We had another discussion about affairs throughout the world, and these discussions I've had with him have been enlightening and interesting and engaging. I've enjoyed them very, very much. I was also very impressed by the remarks he made on his victory night. And he continues with a message of inclusion and bringing people together.
Yup, Romney was willing to prostrate himself, totally contradict his stinging indictment of Trump, and act like the stereotypical career politician that he is. But he never got to be Secretary of State. Which brings us to 2019 and Romney's self-important op-ed in the Washington Post. And Newt Gingrich, who knows a thing or two about how Congress works, said Romney obviously doesn't.
Mitt Romney's a freshman senator, so I'm not sure he's only a top Republican because he was once the nominee and lost. The Senate doesn't care who you used to be. The senators aren't going to go, oh, yeah, we owe you a lot of extra room because you were once the Republican nominee.
Now, forgetting even his attacks on the president of his own party, how about the headline of Romney's op-ed? The president shapes the public character of the nation. Now, there, my friends, is the mindset of a career establishment, big government politician. Note to Mitt, no politician shapes the public character of the nation. The people do. You know, the little people you're so anxious to lecture about your own awesome virtue. But the leftist media was all a Twitter that Romney stepped up to attack Trump. So predictable. They laid waste to him in 2012 when he was running against Barack Obama, but are now anointing him as a Christ-like figure. Listen to Mika Brzezinski and Walter Isaacson, swamp lifers, heaping praise on Romney on MSNBC.
Do you think he creates a space for voiceless, spineless Republicans?
Absolutely. Mitt Romney is everything that Donald Trump isn't. He's deeply moral, a very kind person, somebody with a sense of civic duty and civility.
Mitt Romney, the conscience of the true Republican Party, i.e. the establishment party until Trump came along and rendered them no longer relevant. Then we have Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, who chose New Year's Eve of all times to announce, essentially, that she'll be running for president, as everyone expected. But even the leftist elite media is trashing her. Here's political commentator Harry Enton on CNN.
Usually, if you look at people's home state polling, you would in fact see that they are well out ahead. You know, if you look at Joe Biden's polling in Delaware or Bernie Sanders' polling in Vermont, they both poll particularly well in their home states. But in Massachusetts, Liz Warren, when matched up against her opponents in a potential Democratic primary, she's actually polling third or fourth behind Biden and Sanders, which suggests something's quite wrong, right? Because if the people in your own home state, the Democrats in your own home state, are saying, you know what, maybe we prefer another Democrat, perhaps it says when other people nationwide are exposed to Liz Warren, they may not like her as much.
Of course, Pocahontas' release of her DNA test proving she's an Indian, didn't exactly help. In fact, it may have been one of the most ham-handed, tone-deaf moves in recent political history, right up there with Hillary Clinton's basket of deplorables. We will take a quick break and then come back to discuss the threats and promising developments in store in the year ahead affecting your individual liberty.